I invite you to embrace curiosity and compassion. You know, a lot of people have been taught to stifle or hide or suppress their own feelings and experiences because of how it may impact others. And I'm so glad that we are finally starting to move away from that. But what is happening is that people now don't know what to do with those feelings. And so they end up frustrated and they don't know how to move forward. And I get it, because anger, anxiety, disappointment, grief, those are uncomfortable emotions to sit with. And so the impulse to move as far away from those as possible is very understandable. However, those sensations have very important information for you about things that you need to attend to. And if you ignore them, you're going to keep having the same problem over and over again. And what happens is those feelings start to get internalized, and you start to create negative mindsets and beliefs about yourself that are ultimately not helpful. And so my invitation to you is, when you are having a feeling that you perceive as negative, instead of trying to dismiss it or ignore it, get curious about it. What's happening with it? And that can look like asking yourself, what about this scenario is making me anxious? Why am I resistant to this idea? Why am I feeling so defeated by this experience? Part of how I work as a therapist is I acknowledge all of the parts of ourselves. And people say all the time, like, a part of me feels this way, but another part of me feels this way. Maybe you have a part that's anxious. Maybe you have a part that is scared. Maybe you have a part that's resistant to a certain idea. Maybe you have a part that is triggered by certain scenarios. And when we don't understand a part of ourselves, often we get frustrated and we try to dismiss it. But what happens with that is, if you try to dismiss that part and it has a message for you, it's just going to keep getting louder. And so if you engage with curiosity about that part of you that you don't understand, you can initiate a thought process that can ultimately lead to more clarity and ease for you. You know, our parts are coming from us. And so although their attempts may be misguided and ineffective, they think they're helping. And so assume positive intent. Here's an example from my own personal life. Is my inner critic. Her name is Brenda. Anybody else here have an inner critic? Yeah? Okay, Brenda was so out of pocket. Brenda was telling me things like, I'm not good enough, I won't make it, I'm not working hard enough. Brenda had all of these negative things to say to me. But when I got curious about where Brenda was coming from, what I found was that Brenda knew what I was capable of and wanted me to do my best. Now, that's not a bad intention, is it? No, it's a pretty fine intention. And so here's where the compassion comes in. Because since Brenda had been beating me up all of these years, I was very frustrated with her, and I just kept trying to get rid of her. That when I viewed her with a compassionate lens, what I found is that Brenda was afraid. Brenda was scared of what would happen if I wasn't my best self. And so, if you've ever tried to work with somebody who was scared about something, it's so much easier to support them if you are compassionate and you validate their fears instead of trying to angrily dismiss them. And so, equipped with that understanding of what Brenda was afraid of, I then was able to, one, negotiate with her to show up for me in a different way, to motivate me with less antagonism. But I also got information about what to explore about where that fear was coming from. So with my therapist, and yes, I am a therapist that has a therapist, a doctor who is its own patient is a fool, and my mama ain't raised no fool, but I digress. I explored with my therapist, and what I found is there's a younger version of me who was worried that I would not be accepted if I was not my best. Well, guess what? One, that part of me absolutely deserved compassion. But two, with knowing what she was afraid of, I was able to give her good information. That I had lots of people in my life that loved and accepted me, regardless of whether I was able to be my best self. And I also had information for her that not everybody deserved access to my best self. And so with that understanding, Brenda and I are in a way better place, and she doesn't show up nearly as often. And when Brenda does show up, it's information for me that I need to engage with my loved ones. And I text my friends and ask them to gas me up. I don't know if y'all knew y'all could text your friends and ask them to gas you up, but you can and you should. It's amazing. So anyway, that's the point, is curiosity and compassion. When you're having a response to something, get curious about why you're responding that way and have compassion for the fact that you are responding that way. Often that is coming from a place of fear or concern or worry that you learned when you were younger, and you can't acknowledge that and deal with it if you are ignoring the part of you that's trying to tell you that it's a problem.